fragile egos, bad tempers, wanting to get rid of people left, right and centre. Hey guys, I hope you're all doing well and that you had a great week. To all of my house guests, come in, make yourselves at home, make yourselves comfortable. If you're passing by and you'd like to become a house guest, don't forget to hit subscribe and activate all of your notifications. I'm Chez, this is Chez M0i. Welcome to my place. Okay guys, you already know what's happened, so let's just get into this video.
Gaslighting.
Merriam-Webster provides two definitions of this word gaslighting. Number one, psychological manipulation of a person, usually over an extended period of time, that causes the victim to question the validity of their own thoughts, perception of reality, or memories, and typically leads to confusion, loss of confidence and self-esteem, uncertainty of one's emotional or mental stability, and a dependency on the perpetrator. The second definition is the act or practice of grossly misleading someone, especially for one's own advantage. Gaslighting is the most suitable word to describe what I've witnessed in the last week. Regardless of whether you believe it or not, we as a society are being constantly gaslit by the firm, by the mainstream media, and by the establishment. If you recall from last week's video, I'd stated that Kensington Palace should have kept silent after issuing the initial statement about Kate's health, because them doing otherwise has now resulted in this mass speculation and extreme conspiracy theories. My initial thoughts on first seeing this image of Kate and her children were, I like that picture, it's a really nice picture, but it looks like an old one. And I thought that simply because she looked so healthy and happy, surrounded by her kids. Then, when it was stated that William had taken the photo the previous week, released in time for Mother's Day, with the inference being that this is her current physical state, I then thought, well, if she's so healthy and happy now, why hasn't she returned to work? Then later that same day, it was in the evening actually, it transpired that the image had been manipulated, after which Kate issued an apology. Now, in situations like this, when someone feels the need to over-explain as part of their so-called apology, for me, it indicates concealment. It felt as though she had been coerced into responding to the allegations about this photo, because William and the palace were counting on the public being more forgiving of her than they would have been of them. And you know, they were going to find a way to drag Harry and Meghan into this mess.
Hey, I've just got back to reality from the Oscars, and unfortunately there's been an article on the Daily Mail saying that I have admitted to doctoring the pregnancy announcement portrait I took of Harry and Meghan. Apparently I was switching out trees and meadows, and I admitted to this in an episode of a podcast called Private Passions. This is crazy. I was interviewed, I think in 2022, by Michael Barkley. I'm going to play you the segment on Private Passions. And we were talking about the technology I used to shoot people during lockdown. Many photographers were doing virtual shoots in those days, and this is how we came onto the subject. Michael asked me a few leading questions in this interview. What I mean by leading questions, it's what some journalists do, where they make a statement as fact and they hope you respond or add something to it. I get that a lot in regards to Harry and Meghan, and I tend to swerve, ignore, try and get back on track, and say what I'm there to say rather than any sort of intrigue and gossip. And that's exactly what happened. I'm going to play you the segment.
Photography. Yeah, virtual shooting. My most well-known virtual shoot is the portrait I took of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle announcing their pregnancy. It's a very joyous image. The technology allows you to take over a phone or an iPad, and they can hear my voice, and I can still press a shutter and compose with ease. It's extraordinary what you can do with technology.
They weren't actually under a willow tree, but they were lying outside in a meadow, weren't they, Harry and Meghan, when you took a photograph of them?
Yeah, they were lost in their love, at home, in their garden, comfortable, celebrating new joy, new life, the fortitude of hoping for light in life after such loss that they went through with a miscarriage. So it really was a particularly joyous image to celebrate life itself.
Well,
So, how that exchange could amount to me admitting to doctoring an image is insidious and really dangerous journalism. Any mention of meadows and willow trees came out of the person doing the interview, not my mouth. I did my best to ignore it and focus on what I wanted to talk about. So to see an article saying as fact that I did what I did not do is extraordinary to me. And then to try and merge it with this current news cycle of what's happening, it's tragic to see. It was a virtual shoot that I shot on an iPad, an 8 megapixel iPad. And the only thing that was changed is the black and white color grade. That's it. And the Daily Mail and the journalist that wrote this has to be better than this. It's dangerous and unacceptable behavior.
However, the situation with Kate's photo seems to have gone from bad to worse. This article is from page6.com, dated 14th of March 2024, and the headline is "Kensington Palace absolutely not a trusted source after Kate Middleton Photoshop fail, AFP says. One of the world's biggest news agencies no longer considers Kensington Palace trustworthy. The boss of Agence France Presse, AFP, announced Tuesday that the agency is reconsidering its once cosy relationship with Prince William and Kate Middleton after the couple released an edited photo of the Princess of Wales and their children that has since been pulled from circulation. When asked on BBC Radio 4's media show whether the palace can be viewed as a trusted source, AFP's global news director, Phil Chetwynd, emphatically replied, "No, absolutely not. Like with anything, when you're let down by a source, the bar is raised. We sent out notes to all our teams at the moment to be absolutely super more vigilant about the content coming across our desk," he explained to host Ros Atkins, "even from what we would call trusted sources." Top agencies, including the Associated Press, Reuters and Getty Images, along with AFP, then issued a rare kill notice to media outlets instructing them to remove the portrait immediately. "To kill something on the basis of manipulation is rare," he said. "We do it once a year maybe. I hope less. The previous kills we've had have been from the North Korean news agency or the Iranian news agency. One thing that's really important is you cannot be distorting reality for the public. There's a question of trust, and the big issue here is one of trust and the lack of trust and the falling trust of the general public in institutions generally and in the media. And so it's extremely important that a photo does represent broadly the reality that it's seen in."
About the state of the marriage of the Prince and Princess of Wales, nor indeed about all the speculation about Kate's health and what's happened to her. But the US tabloid press is packed full of it anyway, as are their mainstream TV shows now. It's easy to understand why, isn't it? Because Kensington Palace chose to release a photograph with editing errors so obvious that major news agencies had to delete it from their systems entirely. And in doing so, they chose to mislead the press and the public at precisely the moment in which they were trying to establish clarity. And that was dishonest. The result is more questions than answers. Why don't they share the original photograph and just let us see what it was? Was it actually taken last week? They say so, but can we believe that? What could have been so badly wrong with just a straightforward picture of the family, perhaps from the archives? And if it was so awful, why not simply publish one of the many other photographs that they've never released? Why is Princess Catherine, recovering from abdominal surgery, spending her time anyway, hunched over Photoshop, making amateur edits to official portraits? She's got literally servants to do that. And most bafflingly of all, why not edit in the missing wedding ring? It's quite likely that she's taken it off, perhaps because her hands are swollen from medication. Who knows? But that would be normal, not a big deal. But just about everything else in the photograph's been edited to improve it. Why would you not include, through editing, the one thing that is likely to dampen the flames of conspiracy rather than fuel them? Kate needs a break. On that, I agree. But it was their decision to release this photograph to quell the rumours. And it's left instead a massive self-inflicted bruise and even more conspiracy theories. Well, joining me now to debate this and much more, tonight's packed podcaster and alleged comedian James Barr, lawyer and commentator Paula Roan Adrian, and from New York, the host of Maintaining with Tyrus on Outkick, the great Tyrus. I think, look, I'd come to you guys here. I mean, James, on a serious point, when I saw it, I thought, great, she looks really well, healthy, right? Everything's okay, crisis over. The moment you hear that it's being manipulated to the extent that agencies, in the most extraordinary thing, I've never seen it, return it, reject it, kill it, it sends a conspiracy theorist off the dial. Because then, I'm asking myself, as a former newspaper editor, I'm being a bit cynical about it. Was that picture of her from last week? or because it bore little relation to the picture of her in the car.
Well, you mentioned the wedding ring and talking about swelling. Why is she wearing skinny jeans? There's lots of questions here. I don't think that she was in that photo. That's my opinion. If she was, then she'd plastered an old photo on top. But did she do it? Clearly not. This is the palace. We know how this works. Do you really think Kate has an Adobe subscription?
Maybe.
Does she have Photoshop? Is she doing that? Clearly not.
What I do know is that she has for the last few years, since the kids actually were born, she has taken it upon herself not to let the media take pictures of the kids in the formal setting, but to do it herself.
Yes,
so
true.
she clearly is an amateur photographer.
And I applaud that.
So it is probably quite...
But why have the kids got their fingers crossed? Because if we've seen the Truman Show theory, the suggestion would be that they're not really with their mum.
Oh, James,
and they're trying to they're trying to tell us something. Like, I know I'm in the rabbit hole.
Well, here we are. You are in the rabbit hole, but so are millions of people around the world, Paula. And although on one level it could be trivial, right? It might just be literally, she's okay, she's recovering well, she tried to do something to correct the conspiracies and just got it wrong by editing and not realising. Or it could be that they're hiding something. I mean, I've been told some stuff which is, if even half of it is true about what's happening here, is pretty alarming. So I don't know what to believe, nor do any of us. We're not there, we don't know.
But what that picture actually did, and here is where I add to the conspiracy theory, what that picture actually did was compound the conspiracy theories. It allowed people to question what it is we are being told from the royal family in a way that we would never have done before.
It's also, and I think this might be more damaging going forward, it's turned them into a laughingstock in America, which is, of course, a very important country for the royal family, because that's where millions of royal fans live, and that's the problem. And Time magazine, one of the most respected magazines out there, has published an article called "The Royal Family Has a Trust Problem," and it includes this statement. This controversy, it says, stands to undermine the press and the wider public's trust in the royal family, an institution that, as the late Queen Elizabeth said, must be seen to be believed. This crisis now prompts many to question whether they can still believe what they're seeing. But James, there's a theory that this is all being done to protect William.
Right.
You've endorsed this.
I'm fuming about it because everyone is suddenly saying, leave Kate alone, you're bullying Kate. None of these comments on these late night shows are aimed at Kate. It's all about William. And this picture, I really don't believe that it was posted by by Kate. I genuinely believe that this is William trying to cover something up. And the whole, it's Game of Thrones, isn't it?
And let's be honest, it's not the first time that we've seen a female in the royal family being asked to take responsibility for the mistake of the house.
And I was going to make the point, the Sussexes have let it be known through sources that if this had been Meghan Markle who had done Mr. Picture, all hell would have broken loose, to which I would say yes, actually.
I think they denied that. I think they've made no comment on...
Right, but if they had said that, it's a perfectly valid point.
No, but that's not true. They haven't said that. They haven't said anything about it.
They haven't?
They've remained silent about Kate's photo, as they should, because it's nothing to do with them.
So what I would say then, even if they had, it would be a valid point, but I don't think that Kate is getting an easier time than Meghan would have got. I think that she's getting actually just as hard, if not harder.
And that's why I'm saying...
Kate was effectively thrown under the bus, and with alleged conversations about her fragile mental state and a potential divorce, Kate, it would appear, has become expendable, just like her late mother-in-law.
By the time that Diana died, and in fact, I'm afraid a few years before, the royal family had really given up on Diana. They found her a complete and utter menace, was a threat to the throne. But you have to remember that unless you are born into that family, you are of royal blood, you are always totally expendable in their eyes. They are utterly ruthless, the Windsors. They will get rid of people, and that includes people who marry into them like that. They are not that important. I was told that when it was announced that she was dead that day in August, there was a great sigh of relief around the entire royal family. No, they didn't want her to die in a road accident. That was too horrendous. But she had her court, which was becoming more and more powerful.
The Windsor wife who successfully managed to escape this madness is Meghan. And it would appear that this particular journalist is in agreement. This article is from themirror.co.uk, published on the 11th of March 2024. And it's an opinion piece by Darren Lewis, who is a journalist I've never actually come across before. but I found this article interesting. The headline reads, Kate Middleton photo controversy is proof Meghan was right to get out of the picture. Ah, I see what he did there. Breaking away from the royals 4 years ago was messy for her, ugly for Harry, and painful for both their families. But every time she switches on a TV and watches the feeding frenzy around Kate Middleton, the Duchess of Sussex must breathe a sigh of relief. Every time Meghan sees the internet explode over Kate's health and the state of her marriage, she must surely be thankful that she and her husband trusted their judgment and went it alone. Every time she sees Gary Goldsmith, Kate's convicted wife-beater uncle, who was exiled from celebrity Big Brother when the housemates clocked him as a hanger-on, with nothing to offer beyond taking the Sussex name in vain, Meghan must rest easier. Now, as the UK goes full Katespiracy over that doctored Mother's Day photo, Meghan must feel even more vindicated. Yes, the image that prompted 4 of the world's biggest photo agencies to recall it raises more questions than answers, but the pressure on Kensington Palace to provide more detail on Kate must leave even the princess wishing she'd taken the Meghan route to preserving her sanity. Millions of toxic families around the world have members who want to break away, sons or daughters, often younger adults, who reject being guilt-tripped into doing things the family way, just to keep parents or siblings happy. The family waits for them to fail and come crawling back with their tail between their legs, but they succeed at toughing it out rather than returning. With her wealth and the TV career she'd had before she ever met Harry, Meghan is blessed enough not to need to go back. She is a poster girl for empowerment in the face of relentless intimidation and unwarranted attacks. As she does what she likes, when she likes, without having to kowtow to the royal rota, watching the Cambridge dumpster fire from afar must be what freedom feels like. Especially with Kate now finding out the optics of the royal fairy tale are no substitute for day-to-day peace of mind. This is why, for as long as Harry continues to protect his wife and makes her well-being a priority, he will always remain high in my estimation. Now, even though Meghan has nothing to do with what takes place on this side of the pond, the audacious cries for her to support her sister-in-law in her time of crisis have been made very clear. Now, my question is, why should she? Why should Meghan support her? Now, you're going to think I'm being callous when I say that, but I want you to look at the headlines from these 2 articles written by Morgan's wife, Celia Walden. Next, I want you to listen to this conversation between Louis Walsh, Sharon Osbourne and Fern Britton in the Big Brother house.
The royals. I just wanted to know about Kate Middleton. I know she's a lovely lady.
I think she is.
Oh, yeah, I think so too.
Oh, I'd love to meet her.
I did last year.
Oh, and what happened?
Chelsea Flower Show. And I asked her if she called her son after me.
After you? Of course, Prince Louis.
Yeah.
Did she say yes? I did.
No. But she was charming. She's a beautiful, beautiful girl. Just beautiful. Talking about Kate Middleton.
What big shoes to step into.
I know.
With
I know.
Diana.
Who would want it?
And wearing the iconic engagement ring.
Can you, bless you, can you imagine if that had gone to Meghan?
Oh my God.
Does anybody like that girl?
What?
Does anybody like her? Apart from Harry. Does anybody else like her?
She's mysterious. I would love, I want to be able to believe what I see, that pretty face and a mother and loving her husband. But there's also, perhaps, I feel, that manipulation behind all of that.
I know, Sharon, you feel that, don't you?
Very much so. Very much so. I think it's all put on. I think she's acting the whole time.
She's a bad actress, yeah.
I just want Harry and the children to be happy.
Seriously?
I want Harry to come home.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, make it up with William. be back in the fold and do what he's good at.
Of course.
What's he good at?
Service.
People love him.
Okay.
He's very good with people.
Raising money.
Okay.
Yeah, bringing people together.
Yeah.
Harry.
Okay.
I love Harry.
I love
Do
Harry.
you?
Yeah. He's a people person. I've never met Harry, but I've met William. And
Yeah.
I still like Harry better.
Now, for me, this type of conversation is representative of conversations taking place in households around this country. You know, they would never, this is something they would never say to her face, okay? But they really forget that the cameras and the microphones are on 24/7. And it's with the boldness they feel that they can say this stuff. At the end of the day, people can say what they want to say. You can't control people's thoughts or people's opinions. We live in a free society. But I'm going to expose the hypocrisy towards the end of this video when we talk about values. Okay? Now, we all know that Meghan is absolutely despised by a significant number of people in this country. So here's me attempting to apply logic where logic seems to be lacking. If Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, is such an awful, contemptible, vile individual, why on earth would you, as a member of the British media, who have tasked themselves with being the voice of the British public, why would you want this horrible woman anywhere near Kate Middleton? That doesn't even make sense in a parallel universe. It does not make sense to me at all. As far as the firm, the majority of the British media and the British establishment are concerned, Meghan's addition to the royal family represents a blemish they can't get rid of. And yes, I do mean in the sense you're thinking. And if you need further proof, here's another example of gaslighting that took place this week.
I don't know. I don't know where to start now. I hadn't heard that clip before. That who was he? The former Conservative Party treasurer saying this bloke can't be a racist because he's been abroad. That's a huge get-off for the international slave. He can't possibly be a racist, that massive slaver over there, because he used to sail his ships to Africa to pick up human cargo. I'm a bit discombobulated, actually. I thought I knew where I was going to go at the beginning of the show this morning, and I thought I was going to tell you something about presenting radio phone-ins in a medium that has historically been quite racist. But I don't, because I thought... God, I don't know what this is. Naivety, white privilege, idealism, patheticness, ignorance. I thought this was a story that was, if you like, indefensible. I honestly thought, because, you know, I've done this job now for 20 years. I have experienced colleagues examining instances and examples of blatant and rancid racism and turning them into phone-ins about whether it's white people, always, whether it's really racist, or, gosh, why don't these people just get over themselves? Or, oh, God, everyone's playing... And few people have been on the receiving end of more of that abuse in public life in those 20 years than Diane Abbott. Politician for whom I have immense admiration on one level, for what she has achieved, for the doors that she has opened, for the travails that she has faced. But I am not actually a fan of the third act of her political career, which I think was deeply regrettable. That's my political opinion. But do you know what? I'm not a fan of Kemi Badenoch. But if someone said that she makes me hate all black women, I would gallop to her defence. I'm not particularly... I don't know James Cleverly's mum. But if someone were to come out and say that she makes me want to hate all black women, and if I see her on the television, I think she should be shot, I'd be uncontainable in my fury on his behalf and my defence of British values in this sort of context. So I honestly thought that a man saying that Diane Abbott should be shot and that she made him, quote, just want to hate all black women, represented a Rubicon of sorts. I honestly thought that it would be impossible for me to come on air today and feel a patriotic responsibility to push back against people claiming that this isn't racist. I have often felt like that at 10 o'clock in the morning during the course of my career on this radio station. I have often thought that it falls to me today to say, please stop pretending this isn't disgusting. Please stop pretending that this is evidence of unfounded grievances. But I honestly thought that this was such an obvious... Do you know what? It's so gross, I'm not even going to use the word egregious, which I use about 40 times a day. This is just gross. So I don't know what to do today on the radio, because I don't know how you have a conversation about somebody being obviously and disgustingly racist when they are being defended by colleagues who claim that they're not. I mean, this is a moment that I have described to you in an almost theoretical sense over the years, when I have quoted 1984 and I've said to you, freedom is slavery, ignorance is strength, war is peace. And I've always done it sincerely, but never thinking that we've quite got there. You had that front page of the Daily Express last week, Kemi Badenoch, claiming that Brexit's going brilliantly and it's made billions of pounds for the country. And now you've got a man saying that that a black woman makes him want to hate all black women, and his defence is that it's got nothing to do with race or gender. I don't know how you handle this as a phone-in show. What do you do? It's a bit like having a phone-in show about whether the moon is really made of cheese. Oh, here's Doris in Ongar to tell us that the moon is actually made. Who defends this monster? Who defends? I'll tell you, Lord Marland defends him. Lord Marland, who I'm not particularly familiar with, but I will be by the end of the next break. Lord Marland defends him like this.
He's an international businessman. He travels widely overseas. He does a lot of business in Jamaica. He does business in Malaysia, in Bangladesh and places like that. So he's not a racist. He made some unfortunate remarks which do sound racist, and quite rightly he's apologised for them.
So he's not a racist because he's been to the Caribbean. He's not a racist. Oh, he's made some unfortunate remarks that do sound racist. I'm not even sure who the worst is. Do you want to hear Mel Stride, the Secretary of State for Work and Pensions? Here he is earlier this morning.
Well, it's clear that what he said was inappropriate. He has, as I understand it, apologised for those remarks. I think the critical point here is I don't think what he was saying was a gender-based or a race-based comment, but it was clearly inappropriate. He has apologised, and I think we need to move on from that.
She makes me want to hate all black women, and I think she, the black woman, should be shot, but it's not a gender-based or a race-based comment. Mel Stride, Secretary of State for Work and Pensions, not some branch manager of the BNP or a National Front Tribute Act. Secretary of State for Work and Pensions. So how do you do a phone-in on this? How do you do a phone-in on this without adding something to the idea that it is a debate, that it's an argument, that it's a conversation? How do you do it? Well, that's my problem. That's my problem. And the next time you hear my voice, I'll have an answer to that question, because that's what they pay me to do. But right now, I have no words.
So apparently Frank Hester isn't an extremist in any sense of the word, even though he used extreme, hateful language simply because he's the Conservatives' biggest financial donor and they don't want to give him his money back. Remember, the British Prime Minister, who is Asian, he couldn't bring himself to immediately say that this man's views were racist, because to do so could potentially kill the goose that lays the golden egg. And interestingly, on Thursday, the government announced their redefinition of extremism.
In 2011, extremism was defined as a vocal or active opposition to fundamental British values, including democracy, the rule of law, and individual liberty. But today's narrower definition changes it to the promotion of an ideology based on violence, hatred, or intolerance that aims to negate or destroy the fundamental rights and freedoms of others.
Now, this particular saga reminded me of the first video I made about Meghan, where I asked, what did she do? As I'm speaking to you now, I still don't know what this woman's done wrong. The only thing that Meghan has done, which seems to be an affront, is that she exists. Which is why certain entities want her paraded naked through the streets of Britain, with excrement being thrown at her, while others want her gone permanently, and for Harry and their children to return to the UK so that the royal family can live happily ever after. While those of us who live in the real world understand that this is not a fairy tale, and while the chants of "Leave Kate alone" continue to echo through the airwaves, William and Harry united temporarily, but separately, to present the Diana Awards. Diana, another Windsor wife who wasn't believed when she let it be known that her mental health was suffering.
Princes William and Harry are both taking part in a special award ceremony tonight in honour of their late mother, Princess Diana. But they won't actually meet. Our royal editor, Chris Shipp, is at the Science Museum in central London where the event is taking place. And Chris, is this a sign of just how far apart the brothers still are?
Well, a sign if you need one, yes. And of course, we already know that they are about as far apart, both geographically and personally, as it's possible to be. But what's happening here at the Science Museum at the moment is the award ceremony for the Diana Award. And believe it or not, this is the 25th time they've handed out these awards for the scheme in their mother's name. Now, Prince William's in there at the moment. He's just made a speech in the last few minutes. Prince Harry is also contributing to the Diana Awards tonight, but not here, a slightly different location, and he'll be doing it by video call from where he lives in California. So, you know, it was not possible, even on the 25th anniversary of this award scheme, for both William and Harry to be in the same room at the same time. But interestingly, I've been speaking to some of the recipients here tonight. Some of them were not even born when Princess Diana Awards began in 1999. And yet they still know her and they know of her legacy. And I think that tells you all you need to know about the long-lasting impact that she's had.
Yeah, for sure.
In addition to that, the media still found time to muster up a bit of outrage when learning of Meghan's re-emergence on Instagram.
Chris, Prince Harry's wife Meghan has gone public tonight with the latest project that she's launching.
Yes, I'd say it's raised a few eyebrows in certain corners of the palace. Now, Meghan's not been on Instagram for a long time, but something called American Riviera Orchard was launched this evening. It's already got 78,000 followers in the past hour or so. And there will be questions about what it's for, and of course, whether or not she'll be using promoting any products on this particular site. But that's just been announced this evening.
Okay, Chris at the Science Museum, thank you.
Isn't it strange how they want Kate to be left alone, but they can't leave Meghan alone?
So let me just briefly touch on Kate and the way that William has behaved towards her. Now, this guy reminds me of Henry VIII. And I was never interested in all of this stuff before I lived in Barcelona, because Barcelona is where I binge watched the Tudors. Because all the TV was in Spanish, I thought, let me find something on the internet to watch. So they had the Tudors on. I watched the first episode. I binged the whole thing. Whole box set. William is Henry VIII in the 21st century. Not aesthetically, but in the mindset, okay? Fragile egos, bad tempers, wanting to get rid of people left, right and centre, and that seems to include his wife. He's done it with his brother and his sister-in-law, so the next one is his wife, because William's not happy with what's going on. And maybe she's put her foot down and saying she's not going to tolerate stuff anymore. Who knows what's going on behind the scenes, okay? But do you know what it is for me? It's the fact that this man has thrown his wife to the wolves. She obviously was under the impression when she went chasing after this life that she would always be protected, that she'd be immune from, you know, negative press, because the press work so closely with the royal family. They have like this bargain.
So maybe after this we can do a little bit of prep, just go through some of the journalists that post these accounts.
Mostly royal experts. Is this one mine?
I don't understand what that means. Someone can just call themselves a royal expert?
That's a question for my husband. People can just call themselves royal experts.
It should actually mean something.
It's the same as royal correspondent. Royal correspondent is a title, I suppose, that is given to a select group of journalists so that those newspapers can use them and their stories with royal correspondent as credible fact, just so that whatever the papers print can come with extra credibility.
I mean, anyone can be a royal expert. The whole point of it is to try and lend legitimacy to media articles, and they get paid for it.
And that sort of press pack of royal correspondence is essentially just an extended PR arm of the royal family. So it's been an agreement that's been there for over 30 years.
So she thought she was going to be immune, and now it turns out that she's not. And what I've noticed in the last week online, the tide is turning. Not only has mainstream media kind of given the side eye and thought, what's going on? Because they're not included, you see, they're not being told stuff. And their nose is out of joint. Not only on mainstream media has the tide turned, but it's starting to turn on social media. So the way that this latest episode has really shone a light on the hypocrisy and the gaslighting, effectively, that we've been subjected to as the public, which is what I've been talking about since I did that first video about Jeremy Clarkson at the end of 2022. I've talked about the hypocrisy of the media, something I'd never thought I'd vocalize on a public platform, because I didn't think people were interested. I didn't know people thought the same way about this stuff. You know, when you've got Piers Morgan questioning what's going on and conceding the fact that if this were Meghan, she would have had it. But, you know, one thing I didn't agree with him, though, he said it would have been, you know, he kind of said it would have been it's worse for Kate. No, it still would have been way worse for Meghan had she been in this position. Okay, but like I say, the tide seems to be turning. And I keep saying what goes around comes around. It doesn't matter how long it takes. If you continue to treat people badly, what you've put out into the atmosphere is going to come back to you 100-fold. It's going to come back worse, okay? Never in a million years did anyone think that 2024 would start off like this for the royal family. I had said many times, and you know, I like a scratch record, when the Queen passed, things were going to get worse for the royal family. I'm not a royal expert by any stretch of the imagination, but I make my observations and I listen to what people don't say, because you can always pick up what people's real intentions are from what they don't say. I mean, this is what she wanted. This is the life she wanted. Well, what else can you say to that? What else should she have expected, really? I think she had high expectations. I didn't. I'm not surprised, because I've been saying it since. When it comes to the establishment, and what happened with Diane Abbott and this guy Frank Hester. I'm not surprised. I did not expect anything else. It's not a shock to me. Okay? I've been called a black bee when I've been driving. You know. It doesn't stop me living my life. I accept it for what it is, that they are ignorant and they don't like me. And I'm still alive. You know. They can't, you know, as much as they'd like to, like to put on a white hood and carry a torch, but they can't do that. They can't do that over here. Okay. You know, they want to feed off my fear. I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid of the Frank Hesters of this world. You know, it doesn't shock me. It doesn't anger me. It just proves again that these are the people who they have the power. They are in so-called leadership. Just because they have a few coins in the bank, it emboldens them with this sense of entitlement and grandiosity. It empowers them to say what they say, because that's why they can say it with such confidence. And Frank Hester is not sorry for what he said. He's sorry because it's been exposed. That's what he's sorry for. Because do you think that he had these views just on a whim? This is generational. It's generational. People like him, there's, you know, they're all over the place. It's not just him. Don't think it's just that one guy. You know, it's generational and it will continue. Just because he said sorry and because it's been exposed, don't think that those views, he doesn't hold those views anymore. Don't think that. You'd be naive to think that. For those of you who remember, in the aftermath of Stephen Lawrence's death, years later when the Macpherson report was published, it concluded that the police were institutionally racist. It's not just the police. You've got the fire service, if you've kind of caught that story up in Wales. Racism and misogyny. You have it in schools, you have it in the ambulance service, you have it in hospitals. You have it in every facet of life. That type of thinking is ingrained, it's woven into the fabric of our society. You think sorry is going to make any difference to the way this man thinks? I've said it's generational. It's multi-generational. It's centuries of this. Okay, so I'm not shocked. I'm not triggered. I'm not angry. I accept it for what it is. It doesn't mean I like it, but you know what it is? It's good that it's come out because it reinforces the fact that this exists all over the place. You know, from the homeless guy on the street, if you give him a sandwich instead of £10, what he really wants, he'll call you a black whatever, to those in high society, in the royal family, you know, Lady Susan Hussey asking that woman, where do you really come from? You know, or wearing the blackamoor brooch. It's everywhere. So why am I shocked? What did you really expect? What did you expect? You know, if you've got an Asian Prime Minister of Asian heritage, he won't even come out and say it's racist, what this guy said, even though he said in a documentary recently his experiences of racism. Because money talks, that's why he didn't come out and say straight away that what was said was racist. But we're just supposed to be all right with all of this. And that's why I say, what did you really expect? It doesn't shock me. None of this shocks me. And when you talk about British values, it's so funny because I'm doing something at the moment. Last week I started and I conclude this week. And I'm sat in a room with other people, and on the wall there's a poster about British values. I included it in this video because I thought, let me take a picture of this. One of those is tolerance. That one gets me every time. Tolerance. Tolerance. You want to tolerate me. So when I walk into a room, you don't actually like me being in there, but you'll tolerate me because it's against the law if you don't. Don't tolerate me. Don't tolerate me. You accept me or reject me, but don't tolerate me. The establishment in this country can't even tolerate Meghan. Meghan does not look like me aesthetically. What we have in common is we have a black mum. We both have black mothers, yeah? That's why I have an affinity towards her. I've never met her. She lives her life, I live my life. I'm about 12 years older than her, thereabouts. Okay, I've had my experiences, she has her experiences. So I can empathize with her because of the fact that we have a black mother. They can't even tolerate her. So why are they going to tolerate me that was born here and raised here? Why are they going to tolerate me? I'm not here to be tolerated. And just because you think you're doing me a favor by tolerating me, it doesn't diminish who I am. I am not going to, be shrinking violet because, you don't want to accept me into certain spaces. So for the Frank Hesters of this world, I want to let you know, you haven't intimidated me. It is not within your power nor your abilities to take away my right to exist on this planet. As much as you think it is, it's not. You can hate me all you want. It doesn't change me as a person. You saying all of these things to someone like me doesn't instill something in me to scrub off my skin color. In fact, I embrace it even more because I wouldn't want to be anything else. I wouldn't want to be anything else. I'm so happy with the person that I am. I'm not looking for any validation from the likes of you. I don't need it. I'm okay, thank you very much. So I just want to let you know I'm not going anywhere. But I thank you, Frank Hesters of this world, for saying what you said, because I never expected any better from you. If your thoughts were provoked in any way, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. And if you haven't yet become a house guest, don't forget to hit subscribe and activate all of your notifications. I want to take this opportunity to thank you guys so much for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day, and you shall catch me in the next video.